Good morning. Today we're going to put the signature into this journal that we started in the last video with the collaged cover. I have the signature sort of prepared and the string to sew it in. I'm going to use this pink string. And just to review, this is the collage that I did the last time on this 10 by 13 brown envelope. So I've got a plan to cover the inside. I guess that would be our first step. And so we'll do that first. And I'm going to use this coordinating paper. Oh, before I start on that, I want to show you, I went ahead after I finished the video and did the second one and used the second scroll. And I did tear around like I was talking about. I tore and inked the edges. And actually I ended up liking it better with the torn edges. So I'm not sure yet if anyone has kind of voted or chimed in on which way that liked best. But now you can see them both. So tell me again, which one do you like best? Maybe you'll be more sure now. So I've got everything ready to make a basically duplicate journal, although no two are ever the same, of course, with this and using the same signature and everything. So just wanted to show you how that one turned out. So first step, I've already got this folded, but I'm going to put this piece of coordinating paper on the inside cover. You know how on a book, like a real book, quite often they have that inside page is a coordinating decorative paper. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of creasing that so that it's going to be easier to center up. And then the plan is, once this is down, I'm going to glue the same music paper that's on the front all the way around. And I don't think I'm going to ink this because it's already vintage paper, that the edges aren't super white, and I don't want it to be the center star of the show. I want it to sort of just be in the background. So I'm going to use my glue stick and just go all over the envelope. It'll take the glue probably easier than the paper would without getting all rippled up on me. I'm just going to do it sort of half at a time. I don't have to go all the way to the edge because the paper is not going to go all the way to the edge. Just watch out for big chunks. And then I will get this lined up top to bottom fairly well. And just press that down. Edges right down. It's going to be covered again with another piece, so that'll hold it down too. And we'll do the other side. I think today what we'll get done is finishing off the cover and putting in the signature. We'll flip through the signature and sewing it in. And then perhaps, time for a new glue stick. One thing I've been doing with those is there's always a little bit left inside that part that holds the glue stick, and I've got a little pot, little metal tin that used to hold cuticle cream that I'm gonna dig it all out of those and make myself a little pot that I can use a spatula in one of these days. It's on my to-do list and I'm sort of saving them up. It's a good thing to do in front of the TV. As long as I don't grab it and go putting it on my cuticles, because I do that in front of the TV too. Okay, so that's down. And now here again, I have to be careful of that I don't glue this shut. So I did have a wider piece of the music paper cut for this edge so that I can fold it and wrap it around. So I'm going to fold in see, I cut these about 1 1/4, so I'm going to fold it in just about a 1/2 inch. And this is kind of fragile paper. This is the old vintage music paper. So I'm just kind of being careful because it could rip. It'll be fine once it's glued down, but it might rip. So first I think I will cut it to width. I'm not going to miter these corners. I suppose you could, but we're not being that fancy. I will just rip the edges so that it's not straight edges. And then get more width, so about the, just beyond that music there. Could use my tear ruler for this, but this stuff rips so easy. And let's see, I'll love you will show there. So let's glue this side. I'm going to glue the skinny flap first and get it in there. A little bit wide. And again, this is going to reinforce that edge and also stop me from gluing this shut, because this is going to be the front cover, so it's going to have that pocket in there. So then I will glue the rest of this flap down. Make sure I get it right to the edges. I was ironing, and some of you that know me will find that funny. I was ironing on this working mat yesterday, ironing some coffee dyed paper, and I had seen somewhere that it flattens these, or magic mats or something, so I thought it might flatten it out, but it actually made it worse. So don't try that. And then these are the rest of my music papers that I can use here. So I've got, oh, I just put that piece upside down. Did I? Nope. Keep this right side up. Got vertical pieces and then horizontal pieces so that this music's all going the right direction, kind of. So this one's just the 1.5 inches wide, and I just want to rip those corners, those edges, and measure it out. Just before that music. And then that piece can go down. You kind of have to pay attention to, if it matters to you whether things are upright or face in the right direction, you have to pay attention when you flip something over to glue it, that you're not messing yourself up. I've learned that the hard way. Not a lot of the YouTubers that I've watched have showed all their mistakes. Some of them do, but not all of them. I could use a little help right there. And that's where the little spatula with the tin of glue would be helpful. You could take a little paintbrush or something and get in under those edges. So I may go back and do that. I don't have it handy right now. Here's a piece from the last video that's not glued down, so I'll just get that. And these ends. And then these papers weren't long enough, but I figure that's all right. And they're not going to line up in the corner, but that's okay. This is a junk journal. So I want these to be fairly I'm never satisfied. I don't think I want that there. I've got some spares. I didn't really look at them too hard. So I just want to make sure there isn't something, lyrics that I don't like, or love, I'll love ye thee till desert sands grow cold. Death there warns me how vain is the strength of man. There's a very plain one, another plain one. We can do them plain instead of trying to worry about the lyrics. And so these I've cut to about 1.5 inches wide because I measured how much I was going to need to cover this distance here and overlap both. So there really isn't an up and down. Well, there is on music. The treble clef will tell you for sure. That piece right there. Because it's always sort of facing the way that these are. That's right side up. And then on this one, it's harder to tell. I guess these, yeah, there's the bottom of a treble clef there. Not that that matters that much, certainly not as much as writing, but to a music person it might matter, you know, a music buff. Those go all the way across with just a bit of overlap. That's good. And then again, this one's right side up, so is this one. They're not going to line up. The music's not going to line up, but that's okay. In some of the music books that I got, there was some plain music lines, like just the lines that you could compose your own music on. I thought that was really cool. I hadn't really seen that, maybe since public school. Imagine Mrs. Beatty, the old music teacher that we had in the portable at Merwin Greer School, probably had that kind of paper. Maybe even Mrs. Leonard. From grade 3 and up, maybe. That's when I had her for music. Anyone else remember doing Nemos with Mrs. Leonard? Okay, so there's our inside cover, and probably would prefer to let that sit underneath something heavy overnight, but I want to keep going today. But maybe what I'll do is just take a break and let it stiffen up a bit. While I show you the signature that I've got prepared to sew in. So I picked out some scrapbooking paper. This was from my mom's stash, and I keep referring to my mom. She passed in 2015. So I got a lot of her paper crafting supplies. My sister got a lot of her quilting supplies. So that was a good even deal, because she had a lot of both. I didn't take as much paper then as I probably would have if it had happened now, because I wasn't into paper crafting then, but here I am. So anyway, this one really matched well with the color scheme of the cover, as you can see there. So I had this one and another coordinating one for the center of this. So I like to put, I haven't been doing this for that long, but I've developed this sort of thing where I have my outside cover, which is the envelope, and then I like to have sort of an inner cover on my signature. That's a thicker, more sturdy page, basically. So I've got this was a 12 by 12. And so I folded it up to make a pocket here. And I haven't decided what to do here yet. I may decorate the white part, and then so I'm going to glue this shut probably. It could just be a tuck spot, but I'll probably glue it shut, but I won't do it yet so that it'll make it easier to decorate. And I won't cut a scoop in this because of the border, so I'm not worried about that. And then the next page is coffee dyed paper that I then stenciled on with one of my stencils. And it's got the cool polka dot pattern on it, which I really like. And I love the way that it kind of has its own inked edges on it. So that's what I like about doing this size of journal, is you can use those 8.5, 11 pages folded in half, and they're the right size. Just slightly undersized from this cover page. So this is 8.5 by 11, and I did this one, it's, I guess, 12 by about 9. So you get about a 1/4 inch top and bottom. And then this page was one of the papers I used in the collage on the cover. And it's kind of a slightly off-white. The back is pretty white, but I can either decorate this page up later or ink it or paint on it or something. That's the whole fun of all of this. And then this is some paper that I kind of made myself. It's some nice, thin, just slightly off-white paper that I had from somewhere. I don't even know, maybe from a thrift store. And then this is a photocopy of a collage that I did. So I've done a bunch of collages on pieces of cardstock that maybe had advertising or something on it. And then I've photocopied them. So it's a printable, but it's my own original artwork. So music paper and book pages. And a lot of this book page, some of it's going upside down and some of it isn't. So it's kind of going all different directions. So that's my next page in the signature. And then another piece of coffee dyed paper that's quite dark, which I imagine doing either something light or very pink on it. And then this is another one of my Thistledew printables, we'll call them. So that was another collage that I did. This is a pretty faint photocopy of it. I was trying to run my printer out of ink because it was low. So I photocopied a bunch. So some of them turned out darker than others, and in some cases it worked to my advantage on some of the colors. I find that since I've started printing some stuff for this, I'm using a lot of yellow, so my yellow runs out fast. And then this is a piece of Northumberland map, which has the green in it that I liked in the cover. Just a little bit of green, almost a taupey green. And since I had map on the cover, this isn't the same map, but it's similar in tone, the beige background. And I loved this original vintage cellophane tape residue. I don't think it's still the tape. I think it's just residue from tape. So I'm definitely leaving that. And then the torn edges, they just have to stay. It's part of what makes this rustic come together with the fanciness of some of the other stuff. And then this one, I think, was the day that I did tea dye. And you can tell it's just a bit different tone in color than the coffee dye. And this was just the imprint from a paper doily stuck in between the pages. Here's a darker one that turned out a little better. So I really love the way that looks. And even, again, like, look at the way that the edges go. So I'll do a video on that someday when I figure out how to do my kitchen setup. I do it in the kitchen. And then the center page of this is a coordinating piece of the scrapbook paper to go with that outer cover. And then I folded it up to make a pocket. And then I had an actual doily that I wanted to show off in the middle. I really struggled with finding something this would look good against. I had it against coffee dyed paper at first and it was just too brown. So I wanted that pink in there. And then on this side, which will be, facing page here and the facing page here, I'm going to use this to decorate here. And then that will be hidden down in the pocket. And then this is some clusters that I did, like edge clusters or strip clusters. I thought that those colors worked well with this, and I'm probably going to add some pink lace and roses or something. Have to be fairly flat, but I'll add something on there to make it more go with this pink theme. So I'm going to use that to cover the edges of those pages, and then I'll just have to decide how much to trim this raggedness off, which we'll do. So I think I want to do that before I start to put the signature into the book. So I'll go ahead and do that part, the gluing. And that's, like I say, that'll just help that not look so white. Working with what I have, it's not double-sided scrapbook paper. I'm just gonna make note of how far down I need to go. And again, I'll just do half at a time. I've had a lot of fun doing these different projects that I've seen on YouTube, with the clusters being one of them. And I do have a whole book of just little clusters to put on the corner of a page, which I'll do a flip through of soon. I want to do all the things that I've already done as flip throughs, but I also want to do these crafting videos, so we'll get around to it all. Summer comes and I'm on the porch. I have to figure out how to film out there too. I might be able to do some of that kind of stuff out there. Okay, so that's that. And I don't want to have that coming up yet because it's going to stick down. And then these, I think I want to change the shape of this just a bit so it's not so square. I don't mind, that's like where the piece of cardboard was folded. You can see that's just a bunch of little scrap pieces of paper, including paper bag. You can see the red is like a logo on a paper bag. And different, more of a newsprint music paper, just glued to a strip of scrap paper, which I have tons of after doing this for a few months. So I'm gonna make sure that doesn't stick up too much. I wouldn't mind the little jagged edge sticking out a bit. And then I know it only has to come down to about here, so I'm gonna cut that off. And glue it down. And I think I'm gonna let it stick out about halfway for right now, and I'll probably end up trimming it, but we'll see. I'm gonna use this, and then I think I'm gonna put a little strand of the, I think it's the 3-in-1 glue that I got, just to give it some extra stick. But I don't want to go all the way down right on the edge of these. I want it to be movable a little bit, so that the edges can lift up off the page. If they ever start to be a problem that way, I can glue them down later, but I want the chance for it to be more three-dimensional for now. This stuff is such a fine, I might have to get different bottles. It's good glue. You don't need much, but okay, so I just want that sticking out just a bit. And then the same thing over here. I'm going to just do a test fit here first. This is too square now, so I'm just going to do some tearing. It's not easy when you got all those layers, but a bit of a tear. Let that stick up a bit. I think that will still cover. Just. I was hoping that I could get away with one because I only had one in that exact colorway. I only made a couple of these just to see if I would ever use them, and I think I will. So I'm going to sit down with my scrap bin when I'm watching TV and make this. This would be something that would be hard to do on the porch, again, because of the wind up here on Mount McLaren. As my brother-in-law Kevin likes to call it. Just want to make sure that white part of that cluster isn't sticking out past the edge like that is. think of these things after. And of course that glue's already dried up. That's the acetone-based glue. That's better. That's a bit shabby, and I might have to cover those red bits. They're not horrible, but I can lighten them maybe with some pink paint that matches the roses or something. Not too worried about that right at the moment. Okay, so that goes into my journal with the doily in the center of it. And this is really just a pretty page. It's just a pause and take a breath. You're halfway through the book. Pretty page to look at. Not going to likely write on it. I'm not going to put any more pockets on it. You will see a little bow in the center here when I sew in the signature. So it's just kind of a pause page. And this is more of a storage page. That goes like that. And then I just want to see, before I continue, how these jagged edges look there. Yeah, I'm just going to have to tone down the reds, but I think that's okay. And maybe there will end up being more of that kind of thing sticking out past the end of the journal before we're done. The original prototype didn't have that kind of thing, but that's okay. Okay, so just a quick flip through. We've got our cover, inner cover with the pocket. I think everything's going in the right direction. You always want to check that before you start sewing. And that is sort of and I want everything kind of centered up. Most of these pages are about the same height, and then it's just the doily that's the different height. The map is a little bit different, so I'll just make sure it's centered up in there. Okay. So then, how do you know where to put the holes, right? So what you can do is make yourself a template, which I have one made. I think this is the one I used on the last journal, which is just a folded piece of paper. I don't know whose phone number that is. A folded piece of paper with folded in half this way. And then you take that and fold it in half this way. And then you come in however far you want. I've got to make sure that it catches the narrower pages, which I think we said the map was the narrowest, the map in this piece. So if that's the center, yeah, you want your template to be the same width as your pages. Sorry. And then that tells you the center of that. And then if you want to come in the same distance from each end, you just fold it over again, about an inch in or whatever is going to catch. So in this case, I don't think it's going to catch the doily in 3 places, but I'm not terribly worried about that. There's our doily. Yeah, it's just going to catch it. This is very fragile anyway. I'm tempted to start putting these onto some clear backing for strength, but it's nice to have something delicate and take care of it too. Okay, so I need to mark this onto the book as well. So I'll grab my pencil and figure out where I want my center to be. I think this was still just right on 10 inches, so 5 inches would be the center point. So that can help me line up where my holes are gonna go. So that would be my one hole, and then that would be the next hole. And then that would be the next hole. And I can go ahead and poke those with my awl. And then do the same thing with my signature. Again, making sure I've got things sort of centered up the way I want before I start poking holes. I think it's okay. I think that's pretty good. I just want, I'm gonna get my needle ready. I'm gonna stick it in one of the holes to hold everything in place. I think I'll stick it in the center hole. Just a couple things to keep it from moving too much. I'm going to take this out because it doesn't need to be poked. I just need to put it back in for the needle though, don't I? I want to make sure too that I get that right in the middle. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I'm thinking this through. So I'm going to take this and poke a hole right in the middle. I'm very carefully coming through so I don't make a big out hole on the other side there. And then I'm going to put this in and make sure I'm right in the middle of my doily and go right in the center, and that'll just hold everything in place as well as these until I can get these other holes in. Line that up. I think there is better ways to do this. I've only really done it a few times. That's good. And this will get all my holes in my cover and my signature lining up. Just going to move that up to there. Okay, so all the holes are punched. Now I take my threaded needle, put it all together, and get this through the middle, through the signature, and through the hole in the cover. So you start in the middle, and then you'll go over to one end, of course, and go back in. Into the signature. And I would like to catch the doily. Let's get that sitting down. Get it right on the crease, or where there's already a hole maybe. That's going to be very easy to rip out. It's going to be very fragile. And just go until there's, you know, a bit of a tail. And then you go all the way up to the top hole. through the doily. And then through the signature hole. And then through the cover hole. And then you can kind of snug everything up a bit. And then come back in through the center hole. On the opposite side of the string, so that you've got string on each side of that center string. And that's where you're going to tie yourself a little bow or knot. I just love the way this color coordinates. I want to keep that doubled up, so I'm going to cut this off. And make sure it's nice and tight without being rough on this. That might be somewhere you want to reinforce somehow. I got to figure something out for that. So then I'm going to tie a double, triple, maybe knot. Maybe a double, just 2 knots, and then a little bow. I do have more of this string if I need it elsewhere in the journal, so I'm not worried about saving any. And I think for now I'm just going to leave those long and tie this again so that it doesn't come undone so easily. Yeah. And these can go. And there's our journal. So we've got our cover with the collage, our pocket, which I still have a little bit of gluing down to do on that flap, which might be tricky, but I can still do it. I'm going to leave the inside of that plain, I think. It's nice and clean. And then the inside cover, our pretty coordinating scrapbook paper, and then our signature. So the next video will be doing a little more decorating on it, and I'll show you the other one, which I'll have done by then. And we'll get into some more goodies. I've already got a box of things picked out to use to decorate it further, and I've just got to figure out tags and all of that stuff. So until the next video, thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell all your friends. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.